Hello, hello. Inviting a few people here. Hello, everyone. Josh, here you are. Wait, I sent you an invitation. Hey, opposite way.
Oh, hey, how's it going?
Yeah, good. This is always like this. Bit of a trouble with Instagram.
Yeah,
Okay, perfect. I can see you perfectly. Can you hear me, bro?
yeah, I can.
Yes. Can you talk again?
Can you
No,
hear
I
me? Okay?
lost. Yes. Now, yes.
Fantastic.
Okay, let's start this. Josh, can you tell us a bit about you? Where do you come from, first of all, and how your music journey started? That's the first thing.
Sure. Oh man, where do I start? Well, I grew up in Pennsylvania on the East Coast of the United States. Very close with my grandfather. I guess that's sort of where I got my introduction to music. He was a World War II veteran, and so he was around a lot of the swing era bands, Harry James, Tommy Dorsey, Glenn Miller, all those groups. And so I grew up sort of always hearing that music around the house, and that's what sort of inspired me to want to play the trumpet. I remember seeing Harry James on the Benny Goodman Story, which is a movie, and there's a scene in the movie from the famous the late 1930s Benny Goodman concert at Carnegie Hall, where Harry pays tribute to Louis Armstrong, and he plays "Shine." He plays his transcription and his own take on the classic tune "Shine," and like that was it for me. Like, okay, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Grandpa, what is that? And then I got my first trumpet from actually my grandpa was a preacher, and so I actually got my first trumpet from somebody that was a member of his church, and he said when I get my two front teeth in, my two adult front teeth, I can start playing the trumpet. So I was probably the only kid sitting there wiggling them, trying to get my teeth to come out
Yes.
so I could. And so that was kind of my upbringing. Probably a bit more. I hate to use the word dated, but maybe a bit more dated than most players, I would say. I walked into like elementary school band using all this hand vibrato and stuff like that because that's what I saw Harry James do.
Yeah.
And I think my whole life that sort of that sound has been in my head even today. Obviously, that's not how I play all the time, uh, but I would say largely that's still like my sound concept, that big, wide, kind of broad sound where Harry's sound just kind of enveloped every room he played in, and so that's how I was brought up. And I guess in hindsight, I'm really fortunate to be brought up that way because that's music that's largely forgotten. But back in that era, I feel like trumpet players, well, musicians in general, played with a lot more individual personality. Everything, I think, with the invasion of electronics and synthesizers and all these things, everybody kind of starting to sound the same. But
Yes.
players back then had a lot more personality, and so that's the way I like to play, and I try to play. And so that was kind of the way I was brought up. I had super supportive parents um, who took me to pretty much. I think I was out of school more than I was in school, doing all state band and honors band and this and that, all these different things. And they were always taking me to lessons and community orchestras and everything. And that kind of led me to where I am now. Thankfully and very gratefully, having a career in music as just a performer. I do some teaching, but I mainly just play.
Yeah. Yes. Well, when I interviewed Maurice Northcutt, Maurice on the time we were. Oh, I lost you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes. All right. Um, is something with your connection? You have your screen goes down in it.
Yeah, I had to adjust the setting on my device.
Yes, yes, but that's all right. So when I was talking with Morris, Morris told me straight away, I love Harry James. I play with a King trumpet So I'm one of the Asian white artists as well, and that's my man. What you are saying is exactly me. Louis Armstrong, Harry James. That's what I like to. And man, you are unbelievable. I went to check your work when Morris told me to, because Morris plays a lot of Harry James, but he told me, Louis, you need to go to watch to see this guy, Josh. And I said, all right, let's go, man. I was crazy because the vibratos you are talking about with the fingers, for example, we all do it with the lips, but that's so perfect. You do it exactly like them. How do you do that? Can you explain? Because is people used to do it with pressure,
Sure.
but there is a way to do it properly.
I think so, yeah. I guess I would say I'll speak a little bit more generally at first. So I think you can pretty much emulate any player you want to pretty easily if you break it down into two things, right? So think of it as somebody learning a language. So like when I was growing up, I was a small child. Um, I was learning how to, write my ABCs and read simple words and learn about syllables and all these different things. Learn to read and write, right? Like when I was a little kid, I used to sit there and go, the, ow, jumped. I got to sit there and pronounce every word little bit by little bit.
Yes.
As an adult, we don't do that. You just open the book and you just read. So what did we have to do in order to get to the point where we can just read? Well, we had to work on our fundamentals and break things down into small pieces like letters of the alphabet, and then eventually as we get older, reading becomes easier. And then by being around people like a baby, so if you have two babies, one we put in a room with a dictionary and the other one we put in a family, just to be raised in a family. Which one is going to learn to speak first? No matter the language, wherever they are in the world,
The one in the family.
baby that's with the other human beings is probably going to learn to speak first. And so I think if you treat the trumpet in that way, so for example, we spend our time on, like I said, the basic tenets of good brass playing, pedagogy, working on fundamentals, really having everything down on the trumpet, like playing the Arpin's book from cover to cover or something like that, really understanding how brass instruments work, having good technical facility and all that stuff. So the trumpet we're not limited on the trumpet. So I don't see something on the page and go, oh, I can't play that, because we have the ability to do that. So if we work on that, and then again, like listening to the language, we listen to the players, whether you listen to Harry James or Louis Armstrong or no matter who it is, if we spend time listening to those players, we have the facility to execute it on the trumpet. Now it's just a matter of hearing it and repeating it the same way you would a language. But most times I find that people struggle to emulate other players for one of those two reasons. Either they're actually limited by the trumpet. The trumpet is sort of getting in the way. They don't have the facility to execute the emulation, or they're not hearing Harry James as well as they thought they were. And so I think if you utilize those two skills simultaneously, I think it's actually pretty easy to emulate. It's kind of like playing, like when I was a kid, we had the game called Telephone, where you'd whisper in people's ears and it would go.
Yes.
And by the end, it ends up something totally different, But if you listen really closely, you keep it the same. And so I think if you work on those two things, you really can emulate anybody a lot easier than you might think you can. Now, more specifically to Harry James, you're asking about the hand vibrato. I use jaw vibrato, lip, whatever you want to call it, and hand vibrato interchangeably. One of the physical advantages, I think, of hand vibrato is that you save your endurance here. Because you can wear out your jaw and stuff like that and tire out your muscles. So that's one advantage to using hand vibrato is you're sort of not wasting energy. But it is a sound concept difference, too. I think the most important thing to keep in mind is that, everyone says get your hand or your pinky out of the ring. But keeping it in the ring and sort of allowing it, all it is sort of like a small change in pressure that allows the frequency, the vibrato, kind of goes like this. The pitch goes like that. Not so much that it's out of tune, but we want to kind of keep it all. You don't want the whole hand to move. It's sort of like it's just in the wrist. I'm sure some athlete has said that. It's all in the wrist, right?
Yes.
So I play the trumpet. I'm thinking about. I keep my thumb somewhere between my valve casing and the ring, my pinky is in the ring when I'm utilizing the hand vibrato, and I just sort of changing the pressure ever so slightly in the wrist. It's not a big motion with the hand. A lot of people, they can't get it right because they end up doing too much of it. They think it's like this.
Yes.
It only takes a very slight change in the pressure to get that real pretty vibrato. You know, if you watch Harry James, he's not sitting there like yanking his horn to and from his face. So it's a very small motion. But I would say, generally speaking, if you want to emulate that or really emulate anybody, I think it all sort of just comes down to having the technical facility so that the trumpet is not a limiting factor, and then listening intently enough that, again, we can just repeat it. Like if you tell me to say, oh, the cow jumped over the moon. Okay, the cow jumped over the moon. You know, we're listening intently to each other. That I think it's a lot easier to emulate players than you think. But most musicians either are afraid to take the chances, or one of those they're limited either by their ear or by their actual facility on the instrument.
Yes. So just to say hello to Mike Lovat, he was here and he was sending you all the best.
My hero.
Yes, exactly. One of my heroes too. Great trumpet. Another one that can emulate any player. Sometimes I hear what Mike records and it's unbelievable. He can sound totally different in all the recordings and you always know it's him anyway.
Yep.
Unbelievable. So Josh, now you are with the president own band, right?
Yeah, the Army band here in Washington, D.C., yeah.
Yeah, which is amazing. But you are also with the jazz band of the American Army.
Yeah. They like the way that the U.S. military is set up is we have bands all over the world, but we have sort of a premier band for every branch of like Army, Navy, Air Force, etc. We have a band that's located in the nation's capital, and so I'm part of the Army Premier Band. And within that group, we have a concert band, we have a brass quintet, we have a jazz band, we have a string orchestra, we have like ceremonial groups, and so I'm part of the blues. We call it the Army Blues, which is our jazz ensemble.
All right, okay. So now I get it. Inside the same band, you have all that groups. I was in the premier band in the Portuguese Army as well, yes. But then I went. But we don't have that. So we have the main band and that's it. Then other groups do other things, and that's amazing. So, what was the biggest goal you achieved already as a musician, as a trumpet player, knowing that you heard all of that from your granddad? I think I saw pictures from you and your granddad already with the veterans. And man, I love that. I'm a really patriotic guy and I love how America lives it as well, and it's so good. So, but what do you think if he's looking at you what was your biggest goal already? What did you do that?
That's a really hard question. I don't like to think about my own like achievements. I don't know, I'm always trying to get better every day. You know, honestly, I don't want this to sound like corny, but I just, growing up as a kid, I really did want to have a career as just a musician, as just being able to play music. And at 27 years old, I feel like I've been able to do a lot of things that I thought would have taken me 25, 30 years, whether it's I play regularly with the National Symphony Orchestra, both for Pops programs. I'm usually playing lead and solos on that, or I've even sat with a C trumpet, you know, in the regular season for, you know, classical repertoire. I've played first trumpet on a lot of Broadway tours and things here. There's a real big center, our National Performing Arts Center, the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. I play there pretty regularly. I've traveled to New York City. I've gotten to play with James Morrison. I've played with Doc Severinsen. I don't know. I just have all these things.
That's amazing.
Things.
Yes.
You know, I played in the 1 O'Clock Band. I went to University of North Texas. You know, all that stuff's really cool, and it makes me really emotional to kind of think. I'm just very grateful again to have an opportunity to be able to play the trumpet for a living. But I'm usually just trying to think forward and think, okay, now what's the big thing I can do? You know, I guess the coolest part for me, honestly, is just being a part of such a great community. I don't say this to name drop, but again, in the large, like in retrospect, I'm still a kid compared to guys like Mike Lovett and Wayne Bergeron and whoever. But those two individuals, for example, I can call on the phone right now And, you know, usually I'm driving into a gig and I'll call Wayne and he's driving into a gig and we just share Yamaha trumpet ideas, GR mouthpieces, whatever. We're just, you know, we're just shooting off each other. And that, for me, honestly, is the coolest part, is to know how the greatest players that I've aspired to be like since I was a little boy, they're very caring, they're very outpouring in their generosity, and they want sort of their legacy and just the legacy of the trumpet to live on. You know, because guys like Yuan Racy did that for Wayne, or Warren Looning did that, you know, or Derek Watkins did that for Mike Lovett, and then they're passing it to other guys like young players like me and Tom Walsh and Louis Dowdswell. And so I think that's really cool to be a part of a community like that, because not all professions are like that. You know, there's sometimes people that are at the cream of the crop. They're not really nice people. And I'm not saying there's anyone in the trumpet world like that, but nevertheless, it is cool to be a part of a community like that, where everyone is so outpouring and those people are so approachable. And so I think that's probably my you know, you asked me what was my favorite thing to achieve. I think it's just being a part of that community, you know, knowing people
Yeah.
like halfway across the world, but we have a common love for the trumpet, and we're able to like share in that and become friends because of that. And I think that's pretty cool. You know, music, it's a small world that we live in, really.
It is, bro. And well, we are talking about all that names, and I'm looking at it, and I'm a bit older than you, but there is this other part of the trumpet. For example, I see you already as one of them. For me, and most of us probably do. So you are the next guy of that generation, of that style of music, and we see, even being older than you, I see you as an idol. So it's not a thing of age anymore. It's, you are inside of a circle, you know,
Well,
and that's what you are doing is amazing, and you are a brilliant player. And one of the things I love in this channel, and that's why some people, we were talking about the community. Of course there is bad people in every community, and people, and you are humble, you are really humble, and that's why you are here as well, because that's really important. To be a great artist, you need to be both. It doesn't matter if you are just a great musician. If no one can play near you, no one will want that, you know. And
you want to be friends with people. You want to, like, you know, gigs are cool. I'm not. Sometimes the most fun I have with my friends that are musicians or guys I'm working with in town is like after the session's done and we go to dinner together and we hang out,
yes,
you know, or like, you know, I take care, you know, I babysit their kids, or like the one of my best friends who's in the NSO. I like watch his pets and stuff when he's out. Like we have real friendships. We're not just friends because,
yeah,
oh, this get me a gig or something. It's a genuine friendship that we met through the trumpet, but then it becomes more than that, you know. And so, you know, again, I don't want to sound like a I don't know, like a sappy card or something that you send to your girlfriend or whatever, but like music brings people together, and it does.
it
And
does.
I think that's super cool to be able to be a part of that and to meet people that way.
Yes, absolutely. So now let's talk a bit about gear, because especially in our style, um, is really important, and but people think is much more important than actually it probably is. So let's talk a bit about mouthpieces, about trumpets, about how it can change to play high or to play beautiful. If it's on you, if it's on the mouthpiece. I know you are a GR player, which for me, I'm not a GR player, but I played with GR a lot of times, and for me, they are one of the much easier. I don't know. It's totally different of any other mouthpiece. You need to adapt to them, but it's a one to the horn. You know, it's something unbelievable. What do you think about the mouthpieces? Why do you choose them? What do you have your own models? How does that work?
Well, I started playing GR in high school, so this for me would have been about, I was in ninth grade, so around like 2010. Yeah, like the fall of 2010, I think is when I started playing GR mouthpieces. Um, and my teacher just gave me one. I happened to be playing a classical mouthpiece that was kind of around the same size as this GR. I was starting to like get into commercial mouthpieces and lead stuff, and he said, "Well, this is pretty close to your 3C. Try this." It was like a 66 MS or something. I don't even remember. And I played that all the way till I graduated and got to college, and then I realized for me it was a little too big. And so anyway, so all this time I have been or had been trying all kinds of other brands, and there are lots of great brands. I mean, there are a lot of really talented mouthpiece makers, not just in the U.S., across, in Europe, and I'm
Oh
seeing
yeah.
more mouthpiece makers over there. Like Morris is using Dimitri to make mouthpieces.
Donut. Donut. Yes.
Yeah, there's great mouthpiece makers everywhere. But for me, why I like GR personally, and everyone's different, there was just something about the sound quality that I felt was a little enhanced over anything else I tried. Now, people
Yes.
feel that way about their mouthpiece maker, and that's cool. Again, that's why not everyone wears a Nike size 11 shoe. It's a very cool thing. It's a feeling that we feel. It's a sound that we hear behind the bell. But I've played GR pretty much exclusively since 2009, and then I became an artist for them, and then I became a dealer, and then Gary trained me to become a certified consultant. And so I probably have back here, I don't know, maybe 350, 400 GR mouthpieces that we fit them, and we do playing tests and things like that. I don't play a custom mouthpiece. I was able to get fitted, so just a very short story for me. I played the 65 rim, which is the standard rim we offer for many years. And then I got to town here to Washington, D.C., and my playing requirements kind of changed. And so we just did some experimenting. And it was about that time that Tony Cadlick had seen, a great trumpet player from New York City, probably the guy there. And I was talking with Gary about some of my complaints with the 65 rim. And again, I'd played that mouthpiece for many years, but I lost a lot of weight when I joined the military. Your teeth shift, you change as you get older.
Yes.
And I said, well, I'm looking for this, this, and this. And so he took me through some playing tests and mailed me some mouthpieces. And Tony Cadlick's mouthpieces have worked great. So I've used those now for a few years. And I feel like I'm getting better than ever. It's funny, there were things that I struggled on the 65 rim with forever that I thought was a problem with my technical facility, kind of what I was talking to earlier. I felt like I didn't have necessarily a skill yet. And then when I changed mouthpieces, almost overnight the problem changed. So it brings me, I guess, to a point of that changing mouthpieces every day is just as bad as never changing your mouthpiece.
Yes.
So what I kind of mean by that is, there's guys that are constantly like, oh, let me try this backboard, let me try, they're constantly changing mouthpieces. When I change mouthpieces, it's usually like every 5 or 6 years, and it's usually for a reason. But by the same token, the guys that have played a 3C for 50, 60 years, sometimes that can be just as bad too. And that kind of brings me, I guess, to 2 points as to what brings me to GR. Firstly, I appreciate that Gary has taken what people before him have done, whether it's Reynold Schilke or Vincent Bach or whoever, these, Bob Giardinelli, these great mouthpiece makers of yesteryear, taken what we know and try to enhance it with modern technology and science and mathematics. It's the same reason that I don't drive a car from 1935. Yes. And I'm not going to knock any particular company, but there are some companies that their horns were designed in the 30s and 40s, and they really haven't changed anything.
Yes.
And to me, that doesn't make any sense. Every other industry, cars, medicine, construction and engineering, everybody is pushing the envelope forward for more modern advances to make life better for all of us. And for some reason, the trumpet community is still looking for like a New York Bach from 1925 because they think there's some sort of pixie dust in it that makes it sound special. Now, I'm not guys that play those and sound great, but for me, I really appreciate the advances in modern technology to make playing easier. I don't feel like horns have special sounds. They might have certain timbres, but no matter what you play, you're going to sound like you, no matter what. Yeah. I play any one of my trumpets. I play 40, 50 horns. No matter which ones I play, my friends all know instantly, oh, that's Josh playing. That's his sound. Yeah. Just like our, whether we're sick or we're healthy or speaking a high pitch or I speak in a low pitch, it's still my voice. The timbre of the voice changes, but the sound doesn't change. So I don't think there's anything special with old gear for me. That's why I like the GRs, because they're very modern, and Gary's constantly, again, trying to improve his product. And by doing that, we've learned certain things as far as like, if you know about GR and read about it and everything. Daniel said about Dave Monette. Yeah, he's got the same.
Yes. Do you know Daniel?
I do not actually.
Yeah, he's a great Portuguese teacher. He is a teacher at the National Conservatoire in Lisbon. So one of the main ones. Great player, great musician.
innovator out there that doesn't just, all right, let me copy this 3C. And, you know, they're actually, I don't play Dave Monette's gear, and it's very different from GR, but we appreciate the fact that he doesn't just copy something else and stamp Monette on it. He's trying to make his own thing and what he believes in and what he studied. That's the same reason I play Yamaha trumpets. They're constantly trying to make things better and improve things and make it easier for the player to make music that they want to make. With the mouthpieces, why I choose what I choose, again, with Gary, we've learned a lot about rim shape, and you might go on his website and read about alpha angle and all these little things that can change in a mouthpiece that can make a difference. So again, I'm not saying that a mouthpiece is going to give you a double high C, but for example, my story, my big Achilles heel was that I could never play down to the low range and then up high again. So for example, if I played a G above high C and I went all the way down to low G, 1 and 3, I couldn't go back up to the G above high C. I had to kind of pull the mouthpiece off, reset, and then I could play the high G again. And I for years, I practiced like 3-octave scales and all these intervals from low G to high G and trying to connect the registers, and I just really struggled with it. It was definitely a weak point for my playing. Fast forward to when I tried the Tony Cadlick line, almost instantly the problem, literally by the mouthpiece, the problem went away. And what I learned from that is that there's a parameter called the alpha angle, which is basically, if you're looking at the mouthpiece, sort of this part here coming off the rim down into the cup. My 65 rims are sort of shaped like this. There's a big space coming off of it. The Cadlicks are a little more gradual, and so the alpha angle is what we would say higher. Now, by having an alpha angle higher, as your lip protrudes into the mouthpiece, it can kind of hold the buzzing surface in place. So what was happening on my old mouthpiece is I was playing, and the lips would just fall into the mouthpiece.
Opening, yes.
And that's why I couldn't go back into the high range. On my new mouthpiece, it kind of holds my lip in place, and I can play from low to high, stays in the same position. So that,
I had that problem.
Yeah, it's just one story of how a mouthpiece literally can be life-changing. Again, I don't encourage like my own students to change mouthpieces, but if we've worked at a problem, let's say a problem like that, or articulation or range, we've worked on it maybe 6 months, maybe a year, and there's no improvement, then I'll say, okay, let's look at what mouthpiece you're using. You know, again, just like I told you, changing mouthpieces every day is just as bad as never changing at all. You can learn a lot by having the right gear. You know, I think it's foolish where people say gear doesn't matter, because you could be the greatest runner on the planet, and if your shoes are too small or too big, you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to sprain your ankle, or you're going to get calluses on your, or like you're going to hurt your feet in some way. And so having the right shoe size is so important. And so that's like at GR, our philosophy is that it's not about giving you a mouthpiece. We don't, like, if people just want a mouthpiece, that's fine, but we want to try to provide you a solution so that you can play better. And that's why we have sort of a network of people that are consultants. You know, you come to me, we have a set list of playing tests. I kind of look at what you've been playing. I try to pull out different things, and I try to change certain things. I say, okay, try this one on this test. And usually by playing the same thing on all the mouthpieces, it can be pretty revealing which ones will work for you and which ones don't. So that's, I could keep on and on and on about this. I think it's so important, but that's kind of my
it is
on mouthpieces.
And that's why I've asked it, because it's really important. And the GR, they have a characteristic sound, especially for us that like the gold era of music, the big bands. I think is something that you recreated on that mouthpieces that is so much easier to sound. Unbelievable, incredible.
Yeah, they're very resonant, and if you look at the players that play those mouthpieces, like Wayne Bergeron, I remember when he first changed to GR, almost everybody in LA noticed there was a change in his sound, you know, and even he couldn't believe it. And if you listen like pre-GR, post-GR, I mean, he's always sounded amazing. But but on the GR, like, he just has such a resonant sound. And it's not just because of the mouthpiece, but it's because now he has a mouthpiece that, again, has been fitted for him in the way he plays and the way his dental structure is and the way his embouchure sits, you know, interfaces. It's all a system. The player has to line up with the mouthpiece that has to line up with the trumpet. And if you change any of those things, the other two may have to change as well. But again, it's so foolish for guys to just say, "Oh, I'm just going to plug this mouthpiece in and play." It doesn't work like that. Again, in the 21st century, we can use technology and science and all these things to help us make music better rather than just playing an old, 1.5 C. So
Oh, yes, yes, yes. And that, in Portugal, that's a big problem. Everyone is like, you go to the school, any conservatoire, 1.5 C. That's it. This is the mouthpiece you need to. And we know all. I came from there as well. Um, Brother, you are a Yamaha artist, and here, are you playing with Virgin trumpet? Because I saw you tested one.
yeah, I'm playing the new LA2. I
Yes,
I've been playing it for probably, I guess, a year now.
the new one,
The new
the
one.
two.
I've played it for maybe a year, a little over a year, maybe. I can't remember. For Yamaha artists, when the development artist, so obviously the development artist for that horn is Wayne Bergeron.
Of
Once he
course.
with the trumpet and sort of signs off on it, they want to test it out in the field with other players to make sure that other people like it as well. So Yamaha will do like a small run of what they call pre-production models. I don't know how many they make, 10, 15, 20, I'm not sure. And then they send them out to people. And so I actually, I bought the very first one on Earth. I got one. I was the first person to get one, and I tried it. And partly because during the pandemic, the military bands were the only ones still playing, and they wanted to test it, but nobody was playing any gigs. So I got one, and I took it to work, and almost immediately people turned around and they were like, "What did you do? You sound so much stronger. It's just your sound is a lot bigger." And I had been playing a different Yamaha model before then, which was fine. I didn't have problems with it. Just that the LA trumpet, I think, is a better horn for commercial playing and for lead playing than what I was playing more of a classical kind of orchestral horn. And man, I'll tell you, the newest developments Yamaha has been making with regards to the way they anneal the horns, the way they manufacture the horns, what they're learning about the parts they use. And really the biggest change is not just like with the LA, the biggest change isn't really, it's the same bell, same lead pipe. It's a new valve block, brand new valve block that Yamaha came up with. But the biggest change they made was how they make the trumpets. So physically, the manufacturing process, the way they heat treat the bell, anneal it, all of these things that other companies have said gives them their special sound, right? Yamaha has really figured that out. And so the newest horns, they have such a complex, beautiful sound, and the horn can change from dark to bright to compact to wide in just an instant, with just sort of, again, using our aural concepts and what we hear. Um,
Yes.
so I have literally been over the moon with the LA2 trumpet. It is just incredible. And all the horns are. The new Eric Miyashiro model is amazing. My classical horns are the third generation New York trumpets. The new Bobby Shoes is
Yeah,
amazing.
I
Um,
tried that.
there's some new flugelhorns on their way. Um, so Yamaha is really, again, that's why I like GR2. They're constantly trying to figure out what can we do to make these instruments play better, feel better, and allow people to make music at a higher level. It's
Yes.
not Trumpet, founder of the company, made 60, 70 years ago. We've come a long way since like Yamaha in the 1980s.
Yes, and these interviews are really important for the young generation because there is a lot of internet is a trouble, and you know that but better than me. Is a lot of information, but wrong information, and kids don't know what they should buy, what they shouldn't buy. So it's good to understand. And I like to watch. I don't play with Yamaha, but I played for a long time with 6335 as
Yeah.
well, and is a cheap trumpet and is amazing. Is amazing, unbelievable. Much better than other brands, much above that price. But the thing is, if I like to see this, if we see all the best commercial guys or the most famous at the moment, commercial lead guys, they play with Yamaha, and that's a sign we should. That's what we should look to straight away. Classical people, I love the Bach 37. Most classical guys play with that,
Yeah.
and they Tom Walsh Tom Walsh plays with one as well, and it sounds great anyway. But if you see Dodswell, you Miyashiro, Virgin, is everyone is on Yamaha, and
And
that has a reason. Sorry,
and a GR mouthpiece.
but exactly.
Yeah, I think there's reason those two work so well together. I mean, pretty much every GR artist, not everybody, but almost everybody plays a Yamaha trumpet. Like I said, Eric
Yes.
Nish, Lee Dowdswell, Dan Fornero, John Lewis, Wayne Bergeron, Tony Cadillac, myself, Andy Greenwood.
Yes.
Most Yamaha artists, a lot of cats are playing GR. And you know, you mentioned the classical guys. Of course, you're always going to have guys playing other brands. But as far as the orchestral market here, almost every major orchestra is all playing Yamaha. There's only a few left that are playing other brands. And so I just think that the Yamaha is committed to want to make their horns better, to want to make them more accessible for people, to sort of please. There were a couple notable players here in the U.S., very well-known principal players, who I never thought I would see playing a Yamaha. But Yamaha really worked hard with them to make horns they would like, and now they're both playing Yamaha. And one of them has just got like 3 new C trumpets, and he's like so happy. And I was laughing because I said, nobody on earth thought you would play a Yamaha, and here he is playing one, and he loves it. So I think that's Yamaha, you know, their commitment to want to make a good trumpet. You know, I don't. Some people think it's just marketing. Oh, they put out a Gen 2, so you'd buy it. Oh, now there's a Gen 3, they want you to buy it. There's a lot more that goes into these horns than just marketing. We need to sell trumpets. You know,
Yes.
and sometimes maybe to Yamaha's fault, they don't advertise all the changes, and they should, I think. Maybe they don't want to confuse players, but they put a lot of work into these horns. Like the change between the original Bergeron and the second LA is huge. It's huge. But again, they don't. The main thing was how they anneal the horns, how they're annealing the bells and the valve blocks and all these things, how they make it. But sometimes players don't know that. So what I just recommend is go out and try the newest horns, even if you've never been a Yamaha player before, and you find that they surprise you and they're pretty good. I was one of those people. I think that's a cool story for me as a Yamaha artist, because I used to always say, oh, they sound vanilla. They have no character. They don't,
Yes.
you know, James has this character. I can't do that on a Yamaha. And then I tried one of the newer ones, and I was like, whoa.
Well, yes. Yes.
You know, and I still go to the old ones, and I'm still like, yeah, they're okay. But the new ones, again, Yamaha just has this trajectory where they're trying to get better and better and better. And I think they've shown that, because a lot of guys playing Yamaha right now.
Yes. Yes. Danielle is again saying, I love my Yamaha 6335 Age Mark II. Yes.
The heavy wall trumpets.
Yes.
Yeah, Kenzo Kawasaki came up with those. Those are great horns. A couple guys here in the U.S. that are those trumpets.
Just to say, because most people they will be new, because this channel has been stopped for a while, but we are coming back strong now. We interviewed last year Bob Malone, so
yeah,
amazing, great friend, and he explained everything you are saying. Sometimes they should advertise a bit more, because people doesn't understand. I had a guy having a big discussion with me, and he's my friend. I'm not gonna say his name, because I played with the 6335, and Dodgewell was playing the 6335 RC, but he was saying that the RC was rubbish and the price difference was not worth it, because there was no difference between mine and the other. And one day I said, all right, so I need to try it. I went to London and I tried the model. Man, was nothing to do. But on the paper, they were the same, but
yeah,
the trumpet was not the same. So there is something on the construction, as you say, they change it, and they know what they are doing. That's why the models are more expensive than the others.
yeah. You know, trumpet players have thought this, and they'd be correct, and maybe your friend thought this, that the 6335 RC contains some like student model component.
Yes.
And it does, but that's intentional. For whatever reason, the trumpet players they were working with at the Yamaha Artist Service Center in Hamburg, they preferred those parts. It's not like a student part is less good than a professional.
Exactly.
It's just a different application. And so if you go on there, Yamaha has a website where you can actually look at any model, and it tells you every piece and where it came from. And if you look at the 6335 RC, every part is different than a regular 6335, a regular 6335. It has a 2-piece bell. It's gold brass. The 6335 is 1-piece yellow brass. They have 2 different valve blocks. You know, they have 2 different lead pipes. One's reverse, one's they're totally different models. You know, all you can do is just go to the store, be very organized in the way you test things, be consistent. Don't just go in and see which one plays the double high C. You know, right? And one of the instruments may speak to you, a lot. For example, LA2, which is most guys would think a commercial horn or jazz horn because of Wayne and other lead players using it. But I got mine and I brought it into the National Symphony Orchestra, and they loved it. And by the end of last year, all four of us were using LA B flat trumpets. A major symphony orchestra section was playing all LA trumpets.
That's amazing. That's
It's
good to know.
horn, like, yeah, you just never know what's going to work for you. Dan plays a New York model trumpet, which was designed for an orchestral player, and Dan plays some screaming great lead playing, on that trumpet. So you never know what's going to work for you. Go to your local store, like, I don't know, for you guys, like Phil Parker's or
Yes.
something, something.
Well zone. Yes.
Have.
Yes. Okay, bro. I saw a post of you that you were testing the other day, Robinson remedies,
Yeah.
and I wanna go really quick through that. Are you working with Robinsons or are you using? I'm one of their artists as well, and it works miracles.
Yeah, I know those guys. Actually, I carry these two things in my pocket. I like.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was playing a Broadway tour, and we play 8 shows a week, 2 Saturday, 2. Yep, there. We were doing 2 Saturday, 2 Sunday, 4 shows in a weekend, which is pretty grueling for trumpet players. And this time of year, it's really cold here. It's like 20 degrees Fahrenheit, and I just started feeling like chapped and not as responsive. And I've always used Chop Saber, and it's cool. I have no problems with it. It keeps me high. I usually use it at night before I go to bed. But this stuff I put on in between the shows, this Lip Renew recovery stick. And man, I could not believe how much better I felt when I went to play the second show. And I talked with Kenny Robinson and Walter White, and that like removes lactic acid and blah blah blah, all these other natural ingredients. And man, I love it. I'm so impressed with it. Now I just saw they came up with that the hydrating one.
The Kench. Yes.
Yeah, and I want
The
to
Kench.
try that. So yeah, I've been super happy.
Amazing, bro. Amazing.
Very good.
It does. It does. It really. It works miracles. One other product that I'm not sure. You tried the Uber Mute, not a while ago as well.
The Huber
Not
Mute.
long ago.
Very
Uber Mute. All right. I'm one of the artists as well, and we need to talk about them because Frank is doing an unbelievable work. What did you think about that mute? They are the award-winning on the shop here now. So you just talk about that.
I think they're incredible. Frank has done a really good job. I have most of the originals. Like, I've got original Ray Robinsons, original Shastock mutes. I have an old original Mellowa from the 20s. But he's figured out a way to make, those vintage mutes accessible for everybody. And those sounds, right?
Yes.
I have some really cool. Let me just show you this one. So here's an example of a mute that Frank makes. The Mellowa, Ray Robinson Mellowa.
Oh yeah.
Restored. It's great. This is a restored version. Here's my original, which is probably like one song away from falling apart. And so I love the sound of this, but I don't really want to take it on gigs because it's probably 100 years old at this point. And so I'll use this one. But then I got the Huber mutes, and I was like, wow, these are really cool. It seemed like he worked really hard to copy it exactly, get the specifications, and even though it's 3D printed, the materials are pretty close to, like, these are made out of like a fiber. Very good. And again, talking about modern technology, he was able to make the pitch a little better on them. The projection good. I don't have to move my tuning slide a lot.
Yes.
I think the Hubers are great alternatives to like the old originals. Again, taking what we know, what we liked, and how can we make it better?
That's really good. Yes. Oh, I will just. You are talking about this one exactly.
Yep, that's it.
Yes, that's it. All right. So this was the gear I wanted to talk with you today. Well, also the Barclay microphones, but I'm not sure that you are using Barclay microphones yet. But if you are not, you should.
No, I've been hearing really good about them, especially among trumpet players. So I need to get myself one so I can do some recording at home. I've been hearing great things about them.
I will sort a contact for you about that, but you really should do it. You really should do it. So just to finish, what's your what's your message, bro, to the young generation, to the guys that will look to you one day as you look to Virgin, or as
Um,
we were talking? What's your message to that young generation on internet now? Because this is really dangerous.
uh, well, I guess I have a few points. I'll try to keep it simple. I think you can be successful if you think about these couple points. So number one, we just have to accept the fact right now that making a career in music as a performer is very hard. I mean, very hard. Especially now, there's not nearly as many opportunities as there were in the 70s and the 80s when there were all these touring bands and more live work and more studio work. So we just have to accept that. That's not good. That's not bad. Neither here nor there. It's just a fact. Making a career as a performer is very difficult, but you can be successful in it if we try to do, I think, a couple things. Number one, I think in this day and age, in the 21st century, as a trumpet player, you need to be as absolutely versatile as possible. That doesn't mean you have to sound like Bud Herseth and Maynard Ferguson, but kind of pick your main thing. So I'm largely just a commercial player, but I can play piccolo trumpet, knee flat. I play in orchestras. I play studio things. I play small group jazz. Whatever. Try to make your pool, your job pool, as wide as you can. Because the more versatile you are, the more gigs you're going to get called for. You know, if you're a lead trumpet, you can only do this much. But if you can play everything, now you can pick a lot more. You have a higher chance of success by being versatile. And so if you start to attain that versatility, then I would say have something that makes you special. You know, I don't like to necessarily think that when you get to a certain level, players are necessarily better than one another. They're different. You know, obviously, if you hear Mike Lovett play lead, that's very different than hearing Simon Gardner play lead. You know, right? They're both amazing players. They play very differently, and
But
I
they
think
are different. Yes, exactly.
yeah. So I think for the best thing you can do as a player is to have something that sets you apart from your peers. What makes you special so that when somebody's putting a gig together or a studio session or whatever, and they're like, oh, I want to hire this guy because he has whatever.
Yeah.
So I think if you try to be as versatile as you can and really try to cover all the bases, and you really try to find a way to stand out amongst your peers, I think you'll succeed pretty easily. You know, my teacher used to always say, have a calling card. I think for me, my calling card was being versatile. You know, an orchestra could hire me to play lead trumpet on a show, and then they could also have me for classical work, you know, I'm playing C trumpet and stuff. They didn't have to hire two people. They could just hire one to do both.
Just one.
So that I've got a lot of my work just by being pretty versatile. Um, so I think if you do that as a young player, though, I think you have a great chance of success. You know, do a little bit of teaching. You know, play in commercial groups, play in classical groups, create your own groups. You know, I've done that a few times. I've venues, my own avenues to make gigs. It ended up being super successful. And I think also you can try to you know, use people along the way. And I don't use isn't the right word, but for example, when I was at the University of North Texas, which is like a very esteemed school, obviously for jazz musicians, though all the students that I was with at school now are people that are hiring me for gigs, bringing me to their university for as a guest artist, hiring me for studio work, recording their albums, whatever. All of us were students at the time, but now all of us as adults can help each other and give each other work, and we became friends and everything. So at the end of the day, like we were saying at the beginning of our chat, just try, because you never know in the future how maybe the people, you know, if you have a good impression on people, it may end up serving you well, you know, in the music community. Because if you're, you know, not a nice guy, nobody wants to play with you. And I'm not saying,
Exactly.
you know, don't be friends with people just to get a gig, because you know, we can all tell though who those people are. They just want to be friends with you because they want something. That's not cool either. But what I'm saying is, like, when you're in school, when you're around other young players, you never know who those people are going to become in 5 to 10 years. And so you want to make sure you have a good impression, be a genuine person, be a nice guy. If you're a good player and you're a nice guy, the cream always rises to the top. There's always room for another great player. And so that's kind of my advice to young players is that, yeah, the music not easy, but you can do it. If you're really focused, you can do it. You can definitely be successful.
Josh, thank you so much for your time. One of the things that I would love with you, especially because of your kind of player, was to do an online masterclass later. When you can, we can do it online, but with a lot of people here and a moderation. I think we should work on that because a lot of people um, wants to understand all the commercial stuff about compression, which is a word that some people doesn't talk as much as they should, and it's important to understand all that things. So if you accept the challenge, we will talk later,
Good.
and we will deal with a few things. Guys, if you want GR mouthpieces or understand them, please contact Josh. If you want a guy, I don't need to tell you to play, is Josh as well. And I will share this interview on Facebook and YouTube later. And thank you so much, bro. Thank you so much. It was an honor for me. God bless you, bro. Thank you.
Soon.
Thank you, bro.
Bye.